Riders, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking everything Santa Cruz Heckler. Catching up with Sam from Sam's Bikes. He's one of the leading EMTB YouTube channels at the moment in the world. So really got to enjoy hearing what he has to say. And it is a longer episode, so if you grab a nice refreshment, maybe a cheeky wine, beer, or even a water, just sit down and enjoy some of the content.
Yeah, I kind of thought that it would be interesting. Like Brett has ridden the Heckler. You rode it for 4 days, I think?
2.
2 days.
2 days.
Okay. I unfortunately only rode it for half an hour. But I thought it'd be interesting that we just have a chat about the bike, seeing it is, Santa Cruz flagship e-bike, and Brett also does own a Mega Tower. So basically, Brett, tell us a little bit about you, your channel, what bikes you ride, and how long you've been riding for.
Covering over it again, roughly 2 to 3 years, really. Well, I'd sort of call it more serious riding. Really enjoying it and doing a little bit more racing this year. I ride a Specialized Levo that I've done a fair bit of modification to. And obviously, as Sam said, I've got a Santa Cruz Mega Tower.
And you just said you hit 1,000 subs.
Finally, yes. A little bit of hard work, but
that's amazing.
Thank you very much for your plugs.
And if you haven't seen both the videos on the Heckler, maybe stop now, go check out the Heckler videos and come back. What e-bikes have you been riding lately? So you've got the Levo, but you've been testing anything else?
I've got on the brand new Focus Jam.
Oh yeah? For
a very short period of time. I'm going to probably get that off wheel, funny enough, and have a crack on that too. That was a really good. It's quite a short bike too.
Yep.
But yeah, really poppy, really playful. That was with the new Bosch motor in it.
Oh yeah.
Obviously the Heckler.
Did it have the new
rail?
Did it have the new firmware?
Yes, it did.
Compared to your Levo, how's that?
The Bosch has seriously got some punch, man.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Yeah. It's definitely got some punch. The only thing about the Bosch that I found is as soon as you put your foot on the torque sensor, it wants to go. The bike wants to leave. You got to be ready for it. It can catch you out a couple of times, even after riding e-bikes for this long. I've
been on a Bosch for about an hour, but it didn't have the new firmware. But even with the old one, the old firmware, I was super impressed. It was good.
Really good motor. The only thing is,
did you hear any clunking?
Yeah, I think they've fixed that in the new one, apparently.
Yep.
But the Trek that I tried had the clunking in the motor.
Yep.
The Focus, I didn't notice it, but I possibly was very similar to you. I only rode it for about half an hour, and my mate hired it for a weekend. So.
Yeah. And you said Trek Rail. What else?
Santa Cruz Heckler, Trek Rail. What else have we got on the Norco site? VLT 2019. I've ridden that a fair bit. My Specialized Levo. I want to get on a Canevo too.
Didn't you get on the SL as well? Yes.
I've been on the Levo SL too.
Sweet. So we're in good company here, and if you haven't seen us riding in Adelaide, Brett and I did some pretty good riding, and I took a pretty big crash. This guy he's a beast. So, Brett, tell us how you found the Heckler. All in all, did you just...
Well, we'll sort of start from the start. We'll probably go through climbing. The Heckler is probably, as you've said in your video too, it was one of the best climbing e-bikes that I've sort of sat on. They've done a really short chainstay, but they've also had quite a steep seat angle, so it keeps you pretty well planted. But on the downhills, it was a good trail bike, but when you threw it into some more technical stuff, I found it pretty challenging. I found the bike wanting to do something else before and catching me out a couple of times, to be honest.
Yeah, for me, I would say the best climber in its class that I've ridden, the VPP suspension, out of control, really good. And it's a 27, which, you would expect the 29 would climb better. I'm testing the Decoy 29er at the moment. That climbs very well as well. But I'd say the Heckler's better. Downhill, look, I only had it for half an hour and I was riding in trails that I know. But for me, it felt like I got out of depth very quickly on it. Like it didn't give me a lot of confidence. I knew the trails as well, but it didn't give me it didn't give me that confidence really to hammer into some really steep sections. I kind of second guessed myself, and it's not really what I expected.
Well, my sizing, I rode a large. I think you said you might have been on an extra large.
Yeah.
I'm 6'1". What are you, 6?
I'm 6, so you would be like 186 centimeters. And
186, 187, around that.
Yeah, and I'm 183. I rode an extra large, which I think the reach is 480. And the large, I think, is 460. I reckon I was probably a large on that bike. I think the extra large, but I did have a 50 mil stem on it as well. I found the sizing, maybe if I put a 30 mil stem, the extra large would have been good, or maybe a 50 with the large.
Yep. So one thing I found, I looked at my Levo specs after that, funny enough, and the Levo's got a very similar reach figure, but the one thing that is different is the seat tube angle. It puts you behind the bottom bracket a little bit, where the Santa Cruz Heckler, it sat you right above it, so you didn't have a lot of room to move, is what I found. It was a little bit cramped, which is really good for going up hills, but going down hills, it made it feel a little bit nervous.
Yeah, you're saying that probably, I mean, I had half an hour and I don't ride a long stem, I always ride a short stem. So maybe if I brought that back a little bit, the XL would be the sizing. For you, what was the best and worst thing about the Heckler?
Definitely the spec tyres. They come with a really, really good set of tyres straight up.
What tyres do they come with?
Which is, they are Minions, I think.
Yep.
DHRs, DHR2s.
Yep.
Just a really good, every single, like my Levo comes with the Butcher things that had like no sidewall. So straight up out of the box, you're up for another 160, 200 bucks worth of tyres because you want to upgrade them straight away.
I hate that. On e-bikes, I hate that.
My Levo was sold to me with tubes. So
Yeah. I mean, people don't understand it. I mean, anyone that's new to e-bikes out there, you have to have a good set of tyres. I know that Brett is riding the Eddy Currents at the moment, and how are you finding them, man?
So it's my first time ever running them. I'm running them on a rear. Put it on the other day for a really wet race up in Prospect Hill in South Australia, and I was quite impressed. They grip up really well. I certainly noticed they've got quite a hard rubber. It's not really a malleable sidewall, but I've dropped my tyre pressure a bit, and I enjoy them. Actually, to be honest, really, really enjoying them.
Yep. I've been riding them now like 3 or 4 months. I haven't had one puncture. The only thing I've done is it's like on my rear, I've got like 2 like sort of weeps, like there's a little bit of sealant that's coming out where I must have hit a rock or something, but it's holding air still. That's the only thing I've had. But yeah, and that's good. And what tyre pressures you running? Usually
about the 30, 32 PSI.
Yep.
With the Schwalbies, depending on where I'm riding, I'm down to about 26, playing around with tyre pressures, but I am running Cushcore too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. How'd you find getting Cushcore in with the Eddy Currents?
Challenging would be the best word.
I mean, Brett's obviously
very challenging.
Brett's obviously a YouTuber as well, and like he knows how difficult some of these videos are to shoot. And I was trying to do a video of installing the Eddy Currents tubeless. Far out, dude. You got to watch like the outtakes. I could not get that tire on for half an hour. It is a hard tire to get on.
It's the sidewall. Like you push it around the edge of the rim, and it keeps feeding its way out.
I've got a hack.
You've got to like have zip ties.
I've got a hack. The zip ties.
Yeah.
That you get 2 zip ties, and you put them around the rim, or you need 2 people.
But even like you got the tyre lever, and you push it into the well to try and get it around the cush core. That sidewall is so stiff, it just doesn't want to move.
I know.
Anyway.
It's crazy.
Once it's on, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Feeds really well.
And what about the worst thing on the Heckler?
Oh, it's got to be the dollar value for what you get.
Yeah.
It's an NX drivetrain. You got a 500 watt hour battery. You got Yaris. For Australian dollars, obviously not being in euros, but you're talking $11,000 for the bottom of the range. It's good bike.
The specs here in US dollars, we're talking $7,500 US for the base spec, all the way up to 13.5 or 13,100.
Yeah, that's like 20 grand Australian.
I know, man, and like we're getting. I mean, for me, the best thing about the bike was its climbing ability, but you have a motor and a battery, so climbing really is not like why I buy an e-bike. And the worst thing by far is the value, like 7,100 euros. That is getting you into a top spec decoy or a top spec Canyon Spectral on, or it's getting you in at almost a base aluminium Levo. No, not the base, the comp aluminium Levo, fully spec'd.
Yep.
And that bike came in at 8,000 euros. So, I mean, for me, it's kind of chalk and cheese in the pricing. So who's this bike for?
Oh, it all depends on what riding you enjoy. If you want to get out there on a weekend and you enjoy a big, long single track, nice flowy descents, similar to the Levo SL, this bike would be brilliant for you. Nothing wrong with it. I would love to see a larger battery for the price, as you're saying, but it's a really good bike. It just doesn't like the real steep, chunky descents, which I like to ride.
Yeah, I mean, I agree completely. If you're looking at what you're getting for the price, if you take away the look and you take away the name, it's pretty much a 2017 Merida E160, and an E160.
Yeah, it's a good comparison.
7,000 or 8,000 Australian dollars, and that came with Saint brakes, Fox suspension. You're getting the same motor, the same battery, more or less the same battery. I just think Santa Cruz was kind of late to the party a little bit, and I just don't think it's. It's kind of maybe a fanboy bike, also a good bike, but someone that wants to be showy. It's like someone that really, I don't know. I said I wasn't going to
Hey, it's a Santa Cruz.
I said I wasn't going to slate the bike too much, but, I kind of have to see very PC about this. But, I thought also it would be good because Brett is not a fanboy, but he does have a top spec Mega Tower, with the reserve wheels and everything. So it's interesting, his point of view. How would you make it better? If you were going to upgrade this bike, if you were given it, how would you upgrade it and what would you do to make it better?
Ooh, that's an interesting one. You know what I'd do to it? I did a little bit of homework and I'd mullet the thing.
Oh, yeah? Yeah.
Throw new forks in, throw a 29er up front. Frame compared to my Mega Tower is 20 millimeters lower. So it naturally sits you lower and on the front of the frame. So I'd like to prick the front of the frame up a bit and throw maybe with the 29 a 160 or 170 spring in there.
Or 180.
With a mullet.
You got 160 already on it. It's 160, 150, and the head tube angle is 65 and a half.
You've got some room to move.
Yeah, I reckon 170, 180. I reckon that's a good call. 170, and that's going to slacken you out to like 64, probably.
Yeah, roughly.
Break you out. Yeah, I reckon that's a good call. Yeah, that's. I reckon if I had that bike, I reckon if I had the base model one, I'd probably change the wheels.
Sure, throw some 38s on there.
Yeah, the wheels they're those race face Arcos or whatever they're called. They're butter, dude. Like I've ruined those wheels before. I'd definitely change probably the rear wheel out and probably put some 38s. Yeah, mullet. I did some back-to-back testing on the weekend on the 29er decoy and the mullet decoy, and it was interesting that the 29's got something but far out. 27, you can kind of just dominate that bike more. You can really, my decoy is 180, 165. The head angle's about 63 and a half, 64. It's a big bike.
Okay, yeah.
Slack and big, and it just felt so much more confident in the jumping and the steep downhill sections. Just felt like I could really push into it. The big question, would you buy it?
No, sorry.
No.
That's my opinion. In my opinion, it's a really, really good bike, but for the riding that I do and I enjoy, it's not my style of bike or my style of e-bike.
No, I'd have to say for me as well, like we're looking at, we are in 2020. It's not, when you bought your bike, there weren't really many options. There weren't great options. Now, it feels like there's a new good e-bike dropped every 2 weeks.
It's crazy.
And I just don't, I kind of see that bike as very expensive. And you're not really getting, it's almost a dated bike already. Like it's got a small battery and pretty much an old motor because, the new Specialized is coming out in the next week or 2 or 3 weeks. And yeah, I wouldn't buy it.
Shimano, you mean?
Sorry, Shimano. Right, Brett, you got any other questions?
Any other questions for Sam's bikes?
Oh, I'm an open book here.
How are you finding the new YT decoy?
Dangerous.
Dangerously good.
Dangerously fast. And
he's a man that's going to come onto the 29er.
It's dangerously fast, man. But it gets out of shape and out of depth very quickly. Needs more suspension for me. 145, 150 at the front, 145 at the back. At my local trails, it's a better bike to ride. But at the bike park on the weekend, I did some 3 meter drops and
Huck to flat.
On Instagram, you can see it. It sounds like the bike's going to break in half. It felt like the bike was going to break in half. It needs more. But saying that, I over jumped it and I landed on flat. But yeah, I like it. It's a good bike. I kind of see, it's a strange analogy, but Brett, when you're out at a nightclub or something like that, everything's good and you can drink beers all day and get a few on the whiskeys until 4 a.m. And the decoy is going to be your bike. The 29 is going to be your bike. But then when it's 4 a.m. and the Jaeger bombs start coming out and you want to go like seriously,
just go over that little edge.
You want the mullet, you want the big boy, you want the 180 for me, look, I think both of us are more like the 4 a.m. sort of riders. But if you're not, the 29 is better. It's a better climber. It's a better descender if you're not pushing it really hard. If you're pushing it really hard, it's not. And I found in my local trails that are flowy and there's jumps, but not big jumps. And it's so fast, dude. It's so fast and more traction. It feels like it can brake about 10% later.
Okay. And what do you run? 200s, 220s?
200 rotors.
Oh, yep.
I'm not sure. Maybe 220s at the front. I don't know. I'll check that.
220s they pull you up a lot faster than 200s.
I've got 220s on the new bike. I'm hopefully going to be on a commensal in September, the new one. Hopefully. So that's going to be 180, 170. It has been hinted it's got the new motor. It might have the new battery, and I'm gonna deck it out with Magura MT5 e-brakes with 220 rotors, with the Bruni levers that Magura, thank you, Magura has sent me. It's gonna have eddy currents. It's gonna be a pretty nice bike. And hopefully...
Sounds like a crazy good bike, to be honest, mate.
I haven't seen the...
Very jealous.
I haven't seen the geo numbers, but I think it's going to be like 64-degree head angle, large, I reckon 480, 490, lower standover height than the older one. And I reckon the chain stays are going to be 440 to 450.
Okay, yeah, which is perfect for an e-bike. That's bang on.
And it's 27 front and back. So,
okay, sweet.
And it's a perfect bike for me to test against the Decoy. Same price, similar spec. So fingers crossed I get it.
Sounds like an amazing bike. For a 29er, I found that 160, 170 mark is perfect. Anything above that, they're big bikes.
How did you find the difference between your Levo mulleting it from riding a 29er front and back to then going to the mullet? Because Brett, I think you put your Levo up to 170 at the front, and
yes, with the 29er, I was only running with 160 at the front.
Yep.
I was running the 27.5.
Yep.
Pardon me. Out the back, I put it to 29 again when I put a 170 on there.
Okay. And so how did you find the mulleting? Did you find it was like a lot better or a little bit better? What were your findings?
So the biggest thing that I had with the Levo in that is square edge rear hits or going over chunkier rock gardens. I found the rear end to tuck up, even me being a bigger guy, and it hit me in the arse. So you really had to be a little bit cautious. The rear wheel wanted to tuck up and really give you a little bit of a ride. And rolling into corners, it was more of an effort to turn in. Putting a mullet on is, you got the 29er up front, so it rolls over everything, but the rear end rolled into corners a lot better, and over big rock gardens or anything else, it was a lot more stable. Didn't get us caught up over the square edge hits. Good.
No, that's, I mean, we were just talking about the Decoy 29er, and I followed a guy, my mate, who's a very good rider, followed him down a black run at the bike park on the weekend on the 29er. And I followed a guy down on a Santa Cruz V10 29er. And he obviously put space between me, but not that much space.
Downhill boy.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, yeah, he did put a lot of space between me. But you know, it's the bike can do it. Did I enjoy it? It's pretty scary. But I got the first time, because I was really pushing it, I was at 100%. First time in one downhill, one and a half minute downhill, my back wheel hit my arse 3 times, and it scared the shit out of me. Because you kind of, you like far out. It feels like you're going to get thrown over the handlebars because
it really tucks up and hits you in the bum.
And if you're not a reasonably experienced rider, it can really shock you, and you can lose your concentration because you're in that sort of moment where you are pushing the bike hard, and then you get that distraction. I think we have answered all the questions on the Heckler. Riders, if you have any questions for myself or Brett, hit us up on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, we do answer everyone. And
naturally comes out.
And no drinking beer. We need to be PC, politically correct over here in Europe.
Really?
No. All good. Anyway, Brett, thanks so much for your time, mate. And we will see you hopefully out in the trails in Europe next year.
Ooh, hopefully with this Rona away, I'll look forward to it.